ever feel like your emotions have a mind of their own?
Totally. Like, one minute you're good, the next you're like hijacked by anxiety or anger out of nowhere.
Right, and then we beat ourselves up for it, but what if we actually have more control than we think?
That's what's so cool about this deep dive. We're going into dialectical behavior therapy techniques, DBT.
Yeah, and it's not about, like, becoming emotionless, it's about working with our emotions, right?
Exactly. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about understanding them. And honestly, getting them to work for you, not against you.
Which sounds way better than the alternative. So, where do we even start?
Well, DBT sees this really powerful connection between like what we think, what we feel, and what we do. And it gives us these practical tools to kind of step out of those automatic patterns.
You know, those patterns, they can really mess things up sometimes.
Absolutely. So there's this concept called opposite action, right?
Yeah.
Say you're feeling anxious and your instinct is to avoid like social situations completely.
Oh, that's like my go-to move. Avoidance is my superpower.
Right. But opposite action would be, in that moment, choosing to do a small thing that goes against that urge to avoid. So maybe it's just saying hi to a coworker or something.
So even if every cell in your body is screaming, no,
Pretty much. Because here's the thing. When we avoid stuff that makes us anxious, our bodies stay in that like fight or flight mode.
oh, so it's reinforcing the anxiety almost.
Exactly. But when we do the opposite, even in a tiny way, we kind of break that cycle, and it actually gives our body a chance to calm down.
So our minds freak out, but if we don't let our bodies follow suit,
Exactly. Our minds start to get the message too.
okay, that's actually brilliant. I'm going to try that.
You should. It's like rewiring those pathways in the brain.
And speaking of brains, what about when we totally overreact to something? Like our emotions go from 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds flat.
Happens to the best of us. That's where this other DBT skill comes in handy. It's called checking the facts. It's about taking a beat to get some perspective.
Oh my gosh, I need to get better at that. Like just yesterday, I got this email and my brain immediately jumped to, this is it, I'm in big trouble.
And what happened?
It was like nothing, just a quick question, but I'd already spiraled.
You see, that's our emotions doing their thing. But checking the facts gives us a way to kind of hit pause on that emotional roller coaster.
Okay, so walk me through it. How do we actually check the facts when our brains are determined to freak out?
All right, so first ask yourself, what actually happened? Like just the facts, no added drama.
So in my email example, it would be, I received an email, period.
Exactly. No reading into tone or anything. Then you ask yourself, okay, what's my interpretation of this fact? What meaning am I adding?
Oh, so that's where all the this is bad and they hate me thoughts creep in.
Right. And then the final, most important question is, does how I'm feeling right now, does the intensity of it match the actual situation? Or is my emotional reaction more about the story I'm telling myself?
Which is usually a way more dramatic story than what's actually happening.
Exactly. Our emotions are usually reacting to our thoughts about the situation, not necessarily the reality of it.
That is so true. Okay, so we've got opposite action, we've got checking the facts.
And don't forget about taking care of yourself. There are some basic things that can make a huge difference in how we handle our emotions.
Oh, absolutely. Like if I'm sleep deprived, forget it. I'm a walking emotional landmine.
I hear that. DBT talks about these things that make us more vulnerable to those intense emotions.
Yeah, it's not just about the techniques, it's about the foundation too, right?
Right. There's this acronym, PLEASE. It's cheesy, but it helps to remember.
Cheesy is good. Cheesy is memorable. Break it down for us. What does please stand for?
All right, so the PL is for treat physical illness and balance eating. Sounds simple, but it makes a world of difference.
Oh, for sure. Try telling me I'm overreacting when I'm hungry. See what happens.
Exactly. And then E is for avoid mood-altering substances.
Makes sense. Easier said than done for some people, but yeah.
Totally. But remember, even if it feels good in the moment, it can actually make those emotional swings even worse in the long run.
Okay, what about the A and the S?
A is balanced sleep, crucial. And S is exercise. We've heard it a million times, but it works.
Yeah, I always feel better after a good workout, even if I really didn't feel like doing it in the first place.
Right, and sleep. It's like hitting the reset button for our brains.
And when I don't get enough sleep, it's like my brain is stuck on overdrive.
That's a great way to put it. Without enough sleep, our brains literally can't regulate emotions as well.
So this please thing, it's like a reminder that taking care of our bodies is taking care of our minds too, right?
Absolutely, it's all connected.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from opposite action to checking the facts, and this whole, oh, tell me about it. My brain loves to focus on that one bad thing that happened, even if there were like a million good things that day.
Our brains are kind of wired that way, but we can train them to focus more on the positive. It's like flexing a muscle. So instead of dwelling on the negative, actively look for the good.
So even if it's something small, like, hey, I really enjoyed that cup of coffee this morning, or that was a nice conversation with my neighbor.
Yeah, acknowledge those good moments. Savor them. It makes a bigger difference than you might think.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive, seriously. Who knew we had so much power over our emotions?
Right. It's all about having the right tools and actually using them.
Exactly. So for everyone listening, if there's one thing you take away from this, I hope it's that you don't have to be at the mercy of your emotions. You have choices, you have power, and you can learn to ride those waves instead of getting swept away.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, here's a little challenge. Pick just one thing we talked about today. Maybe it's trying opposite action, maybe it's checking the facts, or maybe it's just committing to get a little more sleep tonight. Whatever it is, try it out next time you feel those emotions starting to bubble up. You might be surprised at how much of a difference it makes.
And that's the first step, right?
Yes,
Small changes lead to big shifts over time.
exactly. And hey, we're all in this together, learning and growing one emotion at a time.